sort of settles down and starts to inscribe the eyes of the dead. He is going to try and make it large enough so it encompasses the entire stone area.
Okay.
However long that takes. Is it 10
It'll
minutes per 100 yards?
Yep, it'll take you probably about 3 hours before all is said and done as you begin to inscribe. And as you start to inscribe this room, you complete it in the first 10 minutes, and it is a fairly large rune. And you inscribe again, and you can see this sort of larger glowing rune emerge from the center rune and get larger. And you inscribe again for another 10 minutes, and it gets larger. And uh, you do this 18 times before all is said and done over the 3 hour period until you see the glowing rune. The power of it has now passed past the tree line, further out, further out, further out, until you're sure that certainly this would be big enough. You've created a rune almost a mile in diameter.
Yeah, brace yourselves, I suppose. And he's just sort of going to let go of the control that it was sort of. I imagine he was just trying to actually just hold it in place and stop it from triggering as it grew like a balloon.
Mm-hmm.
And he just sort of lets go of that and it activates it.
And there really is nowhere. Basically, anyone in the rune gets pulled in. There is not much of a place to hide. So you all get pulled in. You feel this weird shift as you fall 2,500 years into the past. Luna, you open your eyes. You're in a tent. In front of you are spread out maps. A dozen of them at least. You feel the memories of this person. Night has fallen. You all are at camp. You're at a fortification. You are frustrated. As you pore over these maps in front of you, you are sure you are not where the War Magnus has told you that you were. That this fortification, this fortress on the cliff, where he's pointed it out on the map, it doesn't make sense. It's not right. You've traveled underneath of obscuring and non-detection magics and taken multiple translocations to get here. And with that and the interference from all of the raw magic of the war zone, until you've gotten here, it is impossible for you to truly tell that you're not where he says you are, but your gut tells you that you are much further south than that place that he said that he was taking you to. You can feel it. You can't justify it. You can't come up with a reason, but this place, it's wrong. It is not where it is. The frustration, you can step out of your tent following along in this person, and you see the mist that surrounds you to make sure that you can't be seen by true biological eyes, much less magical ones. And so you can't see very far beyond the outskirts of the immediate area, but you know you're not where he's told you that you are. Celia, you find yourself in a watchtower. you're on lookout. You're behind the walls of a small fortification. It is atop a cliff, probably only 60, 70 feet high. This finger of land that this small fort, this fortification is on, sticks out into a wide plain down below you. 3 sides, practically to the horizon. Straight out in front of you, you can see them all. The scouts say it's 15,000 humans in their army here. You started counting banners, but lost count at 300. As the flags and banners of the human king, marked with the flying falcon, fly over the top of this campsite as dusk has fallen and the army is resting before what's sure to be assault tomorrow morning. You have the high ground, but there are only 400 of your group here defending this spot. You don't care what the War Magnus says. You'll be overrun. Luck. You also open your eyes in an opulent tent. As you step outside, you hear the 2 guards salute and say, "General, you're an elf." You recall how you got here as you walk among your men and women, this small band. The war had lasted nearly a lifetime for the elves, over 600 years. When the Council of the Grove summoned you and gave the edict to win the war and end it, you knew that something had to change. These humans, they were far more resilient and formidable than the elves had ever imagined they could be. And their reckless innovations in magic had held all of the elven gains to be measured in inches over the last century. And then the War Magnus appeared. He seemed to materialize as though summoned. A master of the art of war from Qualvarine, promising an end in a single final battle that would happen 2 months hence. And now that time was here. The 2 months had flown by, and now was the eve of the battle. A single unit of 400 elves in a small wooden fortification. This tiny defense against an army of 15,000 humans now camped out on the plain below. You walk among your men and women, placing a hand on a shoulder, assuring them all is not lost. Vidar, you awaken, your eyes opening. You are striding confidently among the elven group here. You, in your own ego, know exactly who you are. You are a War Magnus of Qualvarine. And everything is going to plan. The humans had taken the bait of the intelligence you had planted, and right on cue, they arrived at dusk to begin their assault at the dawn. You stride confidently, pausing every once in a while, looking up to the sky, to the stars. Vidar, you see and know just as much as the War Magnus knows. Tonight the stars will align, and magic will fail. huge smile crosses your lips, and you continue to walk around, assuring every elf that the most glorious victory the world has ever seen will have occurred by the time the sun is fully up. Iska, you're on guard duty again. Down on the plain, looking up at the elven fortification on the cliffs. Human. You aren't all the way at the front line, but not at the center, back where there's still food and plenty of stories and camaraderie with your other soldiers. The magic user had asked for the guard to be doubled this night. The elves might try something. This human mage, the archmage, seemed not to be telling you grunts everything. But he kept reassuring you, and possibly himself, that steel and blade always works. Meanwhile, you stand here in the dark, a small squadron of your friends around you, keeping an eye out, looking up at the elven fortification as it seems to leer down from you from 70 feet above. Axel, your eyes come to focus. You're wearing long robes, and your feet can feel that your feet are bare. You feel the thoughts go through your mind. What are those elves planning? As an archmage, the humans, you're clever, but what is it that they've thought of? To have come this deep behind the lines of the war and to not be intercepted. Surely they wouldn't have left this southern flank open. The breakthroughs in magic you had recently, they were good, but were they really that good to get you here, within 2 days' striking distance of the capital of Falinari itself? You look back to the fortifications on the cliff, standard wards, standard spells and runes that you would use on any fortification, invocation. What was it? Care should be taken, but this fortification would be quickly overrun by the light of day. Surely, you notice that this plane was a creation of a Mirage Arcane. But with so many overlapping fragments of old magic, it's impossible to tell what really might be here, so in an abundance of caution, you went by your old rule. Sometimes the old methods were the best methods. So, taking off your shoes, walking with your bare feet in a spell of your own creation that you call True Feel, you shuffled through the camp, traversing it from one end to the other to try to feel what might be behind the illusion, but it only seemed to be stone beneath your feet. You've doubled the guard, but something still just didn't feel right. The night passes slowly for all of you. Some in anticipation, others in worry and dread, some others just in boredom. Just a few hours past midnight, a stillness falls over the land as each and every one of you feel the hairs on your arms and the back of your neck stand upright, and your skin begins to prickle. It's not from something new in the air, but something missing. The magic that has saturated this march and this war and nearly your whole life is beginning to fail. Cilia, from up on the lookout tower, you see the Mirage Arcane fail, but it doesn't reveal anything you were expecting. It just shows that the entire plain that the human army is camping on is covered with circles as though a colossal giant had dropped hundreds of phonograph records in soft mud, and these were the impressions they left behind after they were picked up. Axel, from down on the plain, you see the Mirage drop as well, and you hear the words of the Archmage. Dear gods, what have they done? Escape your lips as the wards you saw earlier, you see now aren't wards at all, but were hiding their true nature as banishment runes connected to the plane of fire, and those runes are now failing. Iska. First wave of screams breaks through the night from far behind you amid the main forces of the army, as a semi-corporeal wave of energy pulses out from the center of camp towards you. As you leap to run and give aid, the wave passes over you. You feel yourself encased in searing hot darkness for a millisecond, and then you find yourself back on the plane. You look to your partner to see if he felt it too, and you see that half his face is now stone and the other side living flesh, somehow melded together in that instant, and your nose fills with the smell of cooking meat as a hot rock on one side of his face begins to sear the flesh on the other side. Vidar, you watch in fascination from your vantage point above as your plan unfolds on the plain below. The stored magic of one banishment rune winking out only to have another overlapping rune rebanish the same area until it burns itself up and goes out as well. This cascading failure and reassertion of searing hot banished stone rippling across the human army is a thing of unmatched beauty to your eyes. This is your greatest achievement. This will be your legacy. Your legend for all time to be lauded in the halls of the Mosaic Palace of Qualverine. This is the pinnacle of your art. This is what it is to bring war. Luck. You had been summoned by the War Magnus to witness your victory, but all you see now is a nightmare. A woman watching in shocked horror as her now stone arm rips away from her torso and falls to the ground and shatters. A man's body still writhing and trying to escape even though his head has been encased in stone. Others dragging behind limbs of rocks, scorching their flesh. 14,000 humans screaming in torment. Their bodies are repeatedly desecrated by the waves of failing magic, and everywhere the overwhelming smell of cooking flesh and burning hair. The flags of the human army now stone, falcons flying in frozen vigil over this despicable scene as you watch more and more areas come back into true existence as the magic completely fails and this hill of stone returns. It comes to a quick end as the bald hill of stone reappears before you. The plane and the human army are gone, leaving only the rock sloping up and away from you, radiating heat like a hearth. Iska, you're still alive. You're in a small cavern, your limbs frozen and embedded in stone. This chamber, though, is shrinking. A dim light of a glowing rune here, but it is sputtering out. The walls around you are covered with your fellow soldiers, partially submerged but reaching out of the rock. Some still alive, some already completely stone. And at the center of this cavern there is a spring, silver in the rune light. The water in it seems to drip upwards, or perhaps you are in fact in the ceiling. The water trips here. You listen to them strike as the rune is now failing. You take your last breath as your lungs filled with stone, and you could swear the drips of water were playing a song. Luna, back up above. As the hill reappears, you've run out of your tent. All the remaining magic has gone dark. The obscuring magics that had plagued your navigation are gone, and from your vantage point you look to the south and see the holy lake, the mirror of Sethanane, only a few leagues away. This place, this landscape, you immediately know where you are. It's the spring of the moon, the source of the mirror, one of the holiest places the elves know. You lift your hand, shaking to your mouth at this realization, and as magic reasserts itself, you watch as a wave of that same banishment energy highlights the path of a stream bed, winding its way down until it hits that lake, the mirror of Sethanane, and it flows across what was a reflection of the starry sky, and it turns white like a cataract, blinding your goddess's light from your people. You turn to run tell the general as a spike of pain rips through your head. Luck, the Bald of Stone has just returned, and you turn to the War Magnus, who is smiling maniacally in victory, ready to congratulate you. And while magic is still blacked out, you draw your sword and run it through his heart. He falls to the ground, clutching the wound in his chest. You hear his last whispered words. But who will tell them? Tell them of the beauty I have created here. You then turn in disgust, turn your sword on yourself, and fall on it in dishonor. Vidar, as the War Magnus, you clutch your chest as you die, trying to stop the enchantment on the medallion around your neck, but there is no magic to pull upon and undo your fail-safe revenge that hangs there. Your last thoughts are of utter defeat as magic reawakens and the medallion springs to life, sensing its master is dead. The psychic storm that emerges from the medallion flows through the elven army without remorse, ripping their minds apart and leaving no survivors. I need all of you to make 2 death saving throws as the Eyes of the Dead of the Death Room ends its course, and as you try to pull yourself out of it. Please mark down, for those of you who do have failed them. You guys open your eyes, standing atop the Bald. There's almost a ghostly heat that seems to radiate from it now as you stand there, knowing what happened in this place. The only people to truly know.